What would cause a sulfur deficiency in the body? Remember that the sulfur requirements are between 850 to 1500 milligrams a day. We do not store sulfur. Sulfur is always moving through us. We're excreting the extra, and all of the different sulfur-based molecules like NAC and glutathione are all part of that pathway until eventually you get to sulfate, and then it goes out through the urine, right? So we bring it in, we excrete it. It's active. It's very active. So what would cause a sulfur deficiency? Well, we do know from the work of Dr. Stephanie Seneff, MIT researcher, that glyphosate impacts the sulfur cycle. One of the ways it impacts it is by destroying the bacteria in the soil microbiome that provides the right form of sulfur. It changes it to the right form that can then be taken in by the plants, and then we can eat it, right? So if we don't have those bacteria in the soil microbiome, then that's going to impact the sulfur cycle, and we're going to get less of it in the plants, to the degree where some farmers are thinking of adding sulfur into the soils to give their plants a more sulfur rich basis. The other thing that glyphosate can do, glyphosate is Roundup. It can impact our digestive microbiome because 50% of our digestive microbiome uses the shikimate pathway. The shikimate pathway is what glyphosate interferes with. So you block that using glyphosate, and that kills the organism, right? Which is great if you want to get rid of a pest. But, think about the fact that we are a living ecosystem, right? We have trillions of bacteria in our digestive system. They're there to help us. They're there to help communicate with the body. And if we kill them, we impact that ecosystem. So you can see a parallel between the rise in inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, microscopic inflammatory bowel disease, and SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or intestinal microbial overgrowth. You see that correlation. So if you wipe out up to half of your microbiome, then something's going to replace it, right? Something has to replace it. That ecosystem something else will fill that niche, right? So there's an element for small bacterial overgrowth to occur, and also for the damage to occur that causes some of these inflammatory bowel diseases, and even possibly, just an irritable bowel disease. Not just in, because that's as incapacitating for some people as inflammatory. Well, it's incapacitating, put it to you that way. Okay, so then someone brought up this part, which I thought was fascinating, connection. And we're looking at a deficiency of sulfur has been shown to compromise the glutathione synthesis. So during an inflammatory or immune response, a combination of enhanced utilization of cysteine for glutathione synthesis and cell depletion can be what leads to a depletion of cellular S-adenosylmethionine, and then the result is we have a depletion of glutathione. So there's our crossover between people who have problems with mold and people who have SIBO, right? So if you have a depletion of sulfur, that's going to deplete your glutathione stores, and that's going to make you more susceptible to holding on to mycotoxins from mold. And that's where we see this group of people who are now showing up saying, what I have SIBO and I have mold, problems with mold toxicity. But quite likely they're actually connected through that sulfur cycle. And that also might be why, or one of the reasons why, because sulfur does so many things, that both my mold patients and my inflammatory bowel disease patients and my small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, intestinal microbial overgrowth patients all do better when I put them on the sulfur protocol. I want you to be well.